Hi artists! In this lesson, we will make paper mache totems. The lower elementary students at Montessori worked really hard on these fabulous totems. Once they're painted, we'll put them together to make a totem pole. Here's how we made them. For any paper mache creation, you must first make a form. We used plastic water jugs for the base of our forms. I'm also going to use aluminum foil and newspaper to add more dimension to my form. Once you have your materials ready, bend and shape them to create the different parts for your form. Think about the different parts you want to have on your totem. It may be helpful to draw what you want your totem to look like so you know what parts you need to create. A totem is a sacred object or symbol, usually an animal, that represents a group of people such as a family or tribe. What best represents you? Aluminum is great for shaping different forms. Pieces of cardboard, such as toilet paper or paper towel tubes, work well also. Totem poles were created by First Nations or Indians of the Pacific Northwest to represent family lineage, honor ancestors, and tell a story or legend. Our lower elementary students studied the Tlingit tribe before making their totems. Traditionally, totems are carved out of redwood cedar trees because of their durability and resistance to rot, ensuring they will last many decades. Before cutting the tree, tribes would perform a ceremony of thanks and respect to honor the tree. We can give thanks and respect to the trees used to make the paper for our paper mache totems. It's important to respect and honor nature for all that it provides us. Each animal or crest carved into the pole has a symbolic meaning. Click the link in the video description to the Totem Pole Handout to learn more about traditional totem pole animals and their meaning. I'm making a sea turtle. The turtle represents wisdom, spirituality, and protection. It also represents Mother Earth. Once you have your form, it's time to make your paste. Mix together equal parts flour and water. Be sure to mix your paste really well and try to get rid of any clumps. It should be a smooth, slimy liquid. If you want a thicker paste, just add more flour. Be prepared to get messy. But don't worry, this paste will wash right off with soap and water when we're done. Cover your workspace with newspaper and a placemat or tray to catch all the mess. Paper plates work well too. Now we're ready to begin pasting our paper. Dip a piece of paper one at a time into the paste. Make sure you dunk it all the way so it gets completely soaked by the paste. Wrap the paper around your form and smooth out any wrinkles with your finger. Then soak another piece of paper and place it next to the first piece. Put one edge of the second piece on top of the first so it overlaps. This will help cover any gaps. Repeat the process until your entire form is covered with paper. Make sure to smooth out each piece as you stick it on and overlap your paper so it completely covers your form. Standard weight everyday paper or newsprint works best for paper mache. Thicker or heavier weight paper, like cardstock or construction paper, will not work very well because they do not soak up the papier mâché paste as quickly and cannot be molded to your form as easily. I'm using strips of newspaper. This is where it gets messy. Don't forget, it'll wash right off when we're done. The papier mâché technique was first used in China around 200 BC. This makes sense seeing as China invented paper itself. They used papier mâché to make helmets. Eventually, people all over the world began to use papier mâché to make all sorts of things like masks, decorations, toys, and dolls. The French words papier mâché actually translate to mean chewed paper. It is believed that artists in France used to chew pieces of paper to make it easy to mold into different forms. This flower paste doesn't seem so gross now, does it? Once the form is completely covered, let it dry overnight. You can also place it in the sun for a few hours until it is completely dry. Once dried, the papier mâché is hard. Amazing! To make our form stronger, we added another layer of papier mâché. If you can, use a different paper for each layer so you can see the areas that have not been covered. I used newspaper for my first layer and white paper for my second. The second layer will be much easier to work with than the first. Once your entire form is covered with the second layer, let it dry completely. Feel how much stronger it is with the second layer. Now it's time to paint. Follow the link to the Totem Pole handout to learn more about Native American color symbolism and know what each color represents. The main colors used on totem poles were red, white, black, and turquoise, or bluish-green. Watch the color wheel video to see how to mix different colors. I'm going to use a bluish-green for the body of my turtle. Blue represents the waters and skies, and green stands for the trees and mountains. To make a liquid paint, Tlingit and other tribes of the Northwest mix different materials from nature with salmon eggs. Blue was made from copper salts, and green from algae or grass. You can paint your totem however you want. Don't forget to keep your brush on its toes and let it glide the paint on smoothly like an ice skater. Don't squish its tush. If your brush dries out, dip it in more paint. Because these are not watercolor paints, we only need to use the water to rinse our brush in between colors. Be sure to rinse and dry your brush well in between colors if you don't want them to mix. I think I want my body to be more blue. The great thing about paint is that if something doesn't look quite how you like, you can just paint over it. Just remember some colors are stronger than others, so you may need to cover the area with white first and then the other color. It's also helpful to let it dry in between coats. I like that color much better. Now I think I'll paint part of my shell blue. To make the indentations in my turtle shell pop, I'm going to use black. To make black paint, native peoples used charcoal or mud from sulfur springs. This color represents power. Black is a powerful color indeed. That's one reason why it's a good idea to use your lighter colors first and finish with stronger colors like black. You can also let each color dry in between coats so they don't mix with each other where you don't want them to. I'm going to be extra careful not to get it into my blue. Next, I'll paint the design on my shell red. This red paint is not very vibrant, so I will have to do more than one coat. Red was made from a mineral called cinnabar. It represents blood, war, or valor. Valor is a word that means great courage in the face of danger. For example, healthcare workers have shown great valor in the fight against COVID-19. I'm so thankful we have such selfless and brave human beings in the world. I'm rinsing my brush because I didn't let my paint dry in between coats, and I got a little black on my brush when painting the red. You can always go back and touch up your paint after it has dried. Now I'll use a smaller brush to tighten up some of my details. Oops, I smudged some of the red paint where I was resting my hand and accidentally got it on part of the body. Good thing I still have some of that turquoise left. I'll try to be more careful. I'm going to rinse my brush really well and use some yellow to add some details. Yellow was made from clays, moss, roots, and tannic acid, which occurs naturally in woods such as cedar. Yellow represents the sun, light, and happiness. I'm going to do one yellow ray for each of the students in our class. Lastly, I'll add some white detail to the shell. White symbolizes the skies and heavens, and also stands for purity, peace, and death. I'll just add a few finishing touches. And my totem is complete. Don't forget to send me a picture of your totem and tell me about what your spirit animal represents. I can't wait to see your creations. Have fun!